Howdy, folks. I'm startled Arctic ground squirrel, swiftly squirreling away savory snacks.
I'm Amber.
And here are more savory snacks for us to squirrel away because that's what squirrels do. The snacks of Reddit stories. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my dad that I don't want his dating a married woman drama at my wedding? My dad, in his 50s, got a new girlfriend, 40s, a few months ago. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I was happy for him initially, and then at my engagement party to my fiance, a 27-year-old female, we had an explosive incident with the new girlfriend's husband. She cheated on her husband with my dad, the husband that she was still living with and deceiving at that point. My dad knew that she was married and still with her husband as far as he knew, and he dated her anyways and let her move in when her husband kicked her out of the house because he owned it, apparently. I wasn't happy with my dad, firstly, for bringing that drama into my engagement party, but also to do something like that to begin with. The husband has been a big problem for them since then, and the police have been called multiple times. Dad wants to act like everything is normal, and I told him to stop because he was responsible for ruining the engagement party. I asked him how he could put us through that, and he said that he had no idea that the husband was such a jerk at the time, and I brought up that sleeping with his wife might have made him mad. I also accused Dad's girlfriend of taunting the husband with the affair because I learned after the fact that she posted on Facebook, which is how he found out what was going on and where they were. I said that she wasn't hiding very well for someone having an affair. Dad told me that it really wasn't my business what she does. I said her presence caused the scene and meant that the police had to be called to my engagement party, and I asked what reaction he expected me to have. I took some space from my dad, and he continued calling and texting, but I didn't answer. He wanted us to discuss the wedding and what his girlfriend's role will be. I told him that she's not invited, and he's probably not going to be either. I told him that I don't want his dating a married woman drama at my wedding. I told him that we, my fiance and me, didn't deserve that. He told me that he raised me solo and we were always close. I have to invite him. I asked him if he would really be okay with leaving his girlfriend at home, and he said no. I told him that I don't want her drama at my wedding. He tried to make promises, but I knew he couldn't keep them. He can't stop her from posting on her socials, and he can't stop her husband from showing up and being the reason the police are called. So am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I mean, she made the choice to cheat on her husband very publicly for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and it already ruined OP's engagement. The odds are very, very high that she would also ruin OP's wedding, that he's going to find out because she's posting all over socials. Like, is she going to not share she's going to a wedding? No, of course not. She's going to tell him. He's going to show up, and bad things are going to happen.
So, I'm a little bit torn in some respects, like, because it's such a public affair. It seems like this relationship between her and her husband may be over, and this may be one of the reasons why it is public. Like, if she's trying to get a divorce or something like that, and he's refusing to sign the paperwork, then that might be one of the reasons why she's publicly flaunting an affair like this. But that isn't OP's problem to deal with, right?
Right, that's the thing. Like, if she is wanting out of the relationship and he's dragging his feet, or they're in one of those places where you have to be separated for so often and he doesn't want to separate, that's not cool, and she deserves to be able to leave that relationship. But you shouldn't do things that will intentionally sabotage someone else's event. Like, I can't see how she wouldn't see that posting about the engagement party wasn't going to lead to a blow up confrontation. And if she doesn't mind, like, ruining other people's big events, then that's a problem, and she shouldn't be at those events.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not her who's ruining them. It's her husband
Well,
who's
her
ruining
husband
them.
is ruining them,
Yeah.
yes, but I mean, if she knows that posting is going
Yeah.
to bring him to the event.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like, that is extraordinarily problematic that if she knowingly posts and causes him to, which she knows is going to cause him to go where she is, then I mean, that is
Because
problematic.
as you pointed out, like, of course, she's not the one who was responsible for her husband's behavior. That is on him to control.
Yeah,
But at the same time, like,
openly flaunting and antagonizing him.
right, it feels kind of like waving a red flag in front of a bull.
Yeah. So I think that this is absolutely fine for OP to put some distance between them and their father, and that I can understand why they wouldn't want to have this kind of drama at their wedding, right? It's supposed to be a special day, not a day for, this kind of stuff. having the police called is not something that is generally like looked forward to on a wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And last friend, 6350 says, I wouldn't have invited him to the wedding. He's likely to bring his girlfriend regardless of whether she's invited or not, and the husband is bound to show up at some point as well. I definitely would hire security to keep your dad out, the girlfriend, and her husband. In your shoes, I would be disappointed at your dad's lack of morals in dating a married woman who's also happy to flaunt the affair on Facebook. And OP replies, I am. My dad was the only parent that I had growing up. I've also seen a few girlfriends down, but at least none of them before that I know of were married. Knowing that he's now dating a woman who ended her marriage like that, makes me question what else he's willing to do. And again, I kind of want to point out that if this was there are some extraordinary circumstances where I think if you've already declared that the relationship is over, at that point in time, even if you're legally married, then like if a relationship is over, it's over, you know.
Right, yeah. And so without more information, I can't judge the extent of her for the affair part of it.
Yeah.
There's not too much missing info.
Yeah, or the dad for that matter.
Or the dad for that matter.
Though I do want to point out that OP does say, and I don't know, we're only seeing this from OP's side, that she was keeping it secret up to that point.
Which, if that's the case, like, that is really strange choice to make it so public all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm guessing that OP just doesn't necessarily have all the details, because I seriously doubt that this was the hush hush type of thing, and then suddenly one day for the engagement party and the engagement party only, she decides.
I mean, she could just be someone who thrives on drama. There are those people.
Yeah, she could be, and if that's the case, then he really needs to find a new partner.
Because that's unfortunately the kind of the vibe I was getting from her, was that she might be the type of person who thrives on drama and being the center of it.
Yeah, that could be. That's a good theory. And Melodic Rancher 926 says, and it doesn't cross his mind that she might do the same to him. And OP replies, it clearly hasn't, although I wonder if he would do it to her too. Seems like he's just not the person that he was before / I thought that he was. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Son to Give My Other Son a Prize That He Got? My 13-year-old and 7-year-old went to get their biennial dentist checkup and cleaning. Neither kid had any cavities, and my 7-year-old had the dentist pull one of his loose teeth. At the end of the cleaning, both of the boys got to pick a prize from the treasure box. My 7-year-old is very much into dinosaurs and picked a T-Rex toy. My 13-year-old picked another dinosaur toy. I told my 13-year-old that he was too old to be playing with dinosaur figures, and the treasure box is really for little kids, and that he should give it to my 7-year-old. My 13-year-old was being a jerk about it, and I said that this is an opportunity for you to show your daddy that you are a kind brother. Stuff like that will help you out. Being 13 and territorial over a plastic dinosaur is very disappointing. He gave it to my 7-year-old and is now saying that I made him do it. I didn't make him do it. I offered him a chance to build goodwill with me, and that will be worth more than a toy. Plus, he's 13. I don't understand why a dentist is giving kindergartner toys to teens. All right, folks, what do you think?
Yes, oh my goodness, are you the jerk, OP? And yes, you did force him by emotional manipulation. It seems like OP's like, well, since I didn't snatch the toy right out of his hand, I didn't force him. No, you emotionally manipulated your child, which is just as bad and just as forceful.
Yeah, you know the vibe I'm kind of getting from here? Be a good kid and go get daddy some smokes from the fridge. From the fridge? I don't know why from the fridge. I mean, I had like the beer and the smokes at the same time. I guess those are some powerful smokes.
And the nerve of this guy to be like, I don't know why the dentist is giving a 13-year-old a children's toy. First of all, if my dentist gave me toys, like, I would be much happier to go to the dentist.
Yeah, I'll make sure to call them up and be like, hey, next time Ember has an appointment, get her some Pokemon cards.
Exactly, like, I'm never going to love going to the dentist, but if I can get a little prize to make it a little better, because the dentist, is for a lot of people a traumatic place.
Yeah.
Because, starting when you're a little kid, you're getting your teeth poked and drilled and everything. It's a place of pain and whatnot, not a lot of happiness. And so giving people a little bit of a bright spot if it helps them, like I think that's a great thing and should be for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why OP is gatekeeping toys for children, right?
Well, and that's the thing too, is like a 13-year-old is still a child. He's acting like his son is a full-grown adult, which like I mean, if the
Even if
dentist
he
gives toys
was.
to adults, like
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. But to try and force a 13-year-old to grow up even faster is just not a good move.
Well, and I would like to kind of point out that part of the reason why dentists don't offer toys and trinkets to adults is in general, most adults, they don't need those kinds of incentives to basically go to the dentist and whatnot, right? I mean, there's a difference between a child who doesn't have a really good understanding of why it's important to go to the dentist and to incentivize that and make them more willing to go in the future, put a little bit of a positive spin on it than an adult who's, fully aware of the consequences of not going to the dentist. So it's one of those things where I don't think that OP is right to be judging their child, and I don't think they're right to be judging the dentist here.
Mm-hmm.
They can start their own dental practice if they're really this worried about it. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck.
All I can think of is like No Choice Dentistry is like the name of their operation.
Well, I mean, the dentist could go to giving him lollipops or something like that.
Although I'm sure 13-year-olds are too old for lollipops too in Opie's book.
Yeah. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. Main character syndrome.
I mean, I do get some main character syndrome vibes from him.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like, oh, he's he's like, I'm the character of my own story. That was very, very descriptive.
Well, like, yeah, everyone, I am the arbiter of everything.
Yeah.
Everyone has to like abide by like, my son is not a good son unless he's doing exactly what I say.
Mm-hmm. And St. Alva says, you're the jerk. Who made you the dentist? And in regards to, I don't understand why a dentist is giving kindergarten toys to teens. Sir, you do not need to understand. And Clean Currents says, you're the jerk. I told my 13-year-old that he was too old to be playing with dinosaur figures, and the treasure box is really for little kids, and he should give it to my 7-year-old. That's why. You're imposing an arbitrary and quite frankly unnecessary limit on your child's ability to have fun and express himself. And then adding stakes by saying that his willingness to comply is reflecting how good of a son/brother he is. 13-year-olds watch Mr. Beast on YouTube and laugh at Family Guy clips. He isn't too mature to enjoy a dinosaur toy. And even if he is, that's a decision that you let him make, not one for you to make. Don't restrict a harmless sense of joy. The only childish thing that you need to put away as you grow up is the fear of being seen as childish.
Yes, that last line right there.
All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Dad That His Grief Doesn't Get to Dictate the Name My Wife and I Chose for Our Children? My dad and I, a 28-year-old male, have a complicated relationship. He was divorced from my mom when I was only a baby, and she died when I was very young, 5. He was already remarried and had another child when my mom passed away, and I think that he expected with time that I would forget about my mom entirely and assimilate into his new family like they were the only one. There was a big effort to ignore my grief and to expect me to move on like nothing happened. The only time this was ever truly mentioned was when I was 13 and he sat me down and asked me to ask his wife if she would adopt me. He told me that she wanted to adopt me, but didn't want me to get angry at her for asking because I still had a photo of my mom in my bedroom and I still talked about her. During that little talk, he made a point of saying that his wife raised me far longer and had done everything a real mother should do. So it was time for me to acknowledge her in that role and position in my life and make it official. When I said no, he threw a little tantrum, stomping his foot and pouting before he left the room, never mentioning it again. But the strain could be felt. His wife died 3.5 years ago. I was engaged to my wife at the time, and we were planning our wedding. 6 months after her death, Dad asked how I could move on with the wedding planning. I told him that I still wanted to get married. He said that he couldn't understand it and thought that the wedding would be delayed for years. I told him that that wasn't happening. He never said anything about it again, but I know he held it all in, and now it has come to the surface again. My wife is pregnant with our first child, our daughter, and we agreed to name her after my mom. My wife wanted a nature name, and my mom had a nature name, so it worked out perfectly for us. We haven't announced this yet. During a family dinner with my side, one of my siblings asked if we had a name yet. I said maybe. We weren't saying anything for sure until she was here. My dad said that we all know that the baby will be named after his late wife, and there was no point in hiding it. I told him that he didn't know that at all. He lost his temper and told me that if I had any respect for our family, that's exactly what I would do. He told me that he's grieving, my siblings are grieving, and I should take that into consideration. I told him that this has nothing to do with what we name our child. He wanted to talk one-on-one, and I agreed to do so. He told me that if I'm hiding the name like that, then it must be because I'm naming my daughter after someone else, likely that woman, and how I was inconsiderate to consider such a thing when his wife had raised me and his wife had died in the last 4 years. He told me a good son would take this into consideration and honor the woman his father loved, the woman who raised him as her very own. I told him that his grief does not get to dictate the name that my wife and I chose for our child. I told him that my grief didn't seem to matter when I was 5, so why was I supposed to put his adult grief first now? I told him that there was going to be no more talking about baby names because it was none of his business. He has since accused me of invalidating his grief and being insensitive to it. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. His grief is his own to manage, and grief does not mean you get to pick out someone else's baby name.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the father probably needs some therapy if it's been 4 years since his wife passed, and he is at a point where he feels like everyone needs to cater to him to this degree.
Yeah.
He has to recognize that his grief is not everyone else's grief. Every other people have moved on and are living their lives, and he cannot expect them to just like. I just feel like there's a hypocrisy going on here that poor 5-year-old OP
Yeah.
was basically allowed to have one photo of his mother. Everything else was shut out and was thrown out, and okay, that's it, we're closing the door on this.
Yeah. I
But now,
want to point out that that information comes from the comments.
yeah, it does come from the comments. Whereas OP's father, who is a grown adult, has had 4 years to process his grief and is still like, well, if you name your baby anything other than my late wife's name, you're not accepting my grief.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is that no amount of time is ever going to be satisfactory for
Mm-hmm.
the father. Like, I understand that he's grieving, and that's something that he has to work through. But that's not OP's problem at this point in time, right? Like, OP isn't doing this to rub it in his face, right?
Right, yeah, it would be different if OP specifically chose his mom's name to rub it in the dad's face, but he did this because he loved his mom and felt like he never got to have that connection with her.
Yeah, like if OP didn't, have any kind of like strong connection to his mother and, didn't care about her, but then just pulled this out of their, hat and was like, I'm gonna name it after my mom.
Yeah, it'd be more of an everyone's the jerk situation, but it's very clear that OP's mom meant a lot to him.
Mm-hmm.
And the nerve of the dad and his wife, it sounds especially like the dad, I don't know his full emotion about his wife, to like basically bash OP's deceased mom at every
Yeah.
opportunity. Like him now, all this time later, calling her that woman.
Yeah.
I don't care what went down in their relationship. She was your child's mother.
Well, exactly. And I do want to say that I did read through the comments here to try to figure out what exactly she did to him, to hurt him so badly that he would treat her this way, even in death. And OP did try to talk to her at one point in time, talk to him at one point in time, but he would just shut down the conversations and never really extrapolate beyond, like, he just didn't like her.
Right.
So it's really difficult to kind of get a gauge of like, well, if she was so terrible, why doesn't he say what she actually did?
Well, that's the thing, is like OP points out, he's like, I'm pretty sure it couldn't have been an affair because my dad would 100% have thrown that in my face.
Yeah. And since the dad isn't able to really throw anything tangible, it makes you wonder if they just had a bad personality clash
Mm-hmm.
and she, said, well, I want a divorce. I'm not interested in being around you anymore, right? Because it seems like it was very shortly after OP was born.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe she got tired of his nonsense. Maybe he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
helping out with the child care or something like that. Who knows, right? I mean, this is all very speculative. And, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. What matters is OP wants to honor the woman that he wasn't able to have in his life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's perfectly fine, right?
Right.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke, an esoteric joke.
What do you get if you cross a sweet treat with a set of similar words?
What do you get if you cross a sweet treat with similar words? Well, I would say that you get a feet beat.
A synonym roll.
Oh, I see. But what about feet beat?
That doesn't make sense. But today is National Thesaurus Day.
It makes perfect sense. And the reason why it makes sense is that beets are kind of sweet.
No.
And you put them on your feet, and then you'll
No.
have sweet beet feet.
So this is National Thesaurus Day, and that's a great day for me because I don't know if I've used it yet today, but I imagine I will because I use the thesaurus basically every day as a writer.
Yes, so go dust off that old thesaurus that you have in the back of your bookshelf and pull it out and look up a few words like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Tell me what the synonym for that one is.
I don't even think I have a paper thesaurus. I just use electronic ones.
Shame, for shame. Do I even know you? And I have Earl Grey.
I don't think you have one either, so way to judge me. Maybe we need to ask the wheel about you.
Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that Brian's earned. Neutral party, bad vibes.
The wheel is too afraid. The wheel's like, uh-oh, uh-oh.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Spectacular Saturday, folks. I hope your Saturday is off to a spectacular start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on bad dads, which is similar to cinnamon rolls.
Don't emotionally manipulate your child.
Yes. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.